there's reasons why people are holding you back, and it might not be conscious. It probably isn't conscious. And it's most likely unconscious fears. And so you got to trust yourself over them. And at least that way you won't have what if.
There might be some room for growth in imagining what it would be like to be on their end. I'm not saying you have to forgive or forget or any of that, but I think the perspective and having an open mind would be beneficial. Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1444. That's an easy one to remember. One of the best possible uses for your money. Today, for episode number 1445, happy Thursday, 2 reasons why people unintentionally hold you back. I have been on both ends of this. I have been held back unintentionally, and I have held people back unintentionally. I've told this story before, but I do not have a better story, and I don't know if there's a better illustration of one of the major reasons people unintentionally are holding you back. I had a partner who I lived with in Boston, and this partner was very, very aspirational. She had very big goals. She had very big dreams. At the time, we lived in Boston, so we lived in Massachusetts. She wanted to live on the West Coast. She had always wanted to go to California, and that was one of her focuses. That was one of her passions. She really wanted to move out to California. And we started having conversations about this, and I remember that I was very, I won't say happy with my job, because I enjoyed the money. I didn't necessarily enjoy all the things that went into my job, but I remember feeling like I actually had a real job. I said, this could be a long-term career. I feel like I'm ready to stay put for the first time in my life. I really feel like I've created a lot of things here. She wanted to uproot and move across the country. And she said, I'll help you find a job. I'll help us find a place, like everything. I'll take care of almost anything. You just have to come with me. And I was so insecure. I was super insecure about the whole thing. Part of it was the fact that I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay put because I had a level of success that I never thought I was going to get. The other part of it for me was I felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I knew if I didn't go, she was probably going to leave me. So in my mind, I tried to figure out a way, and again, none of this is conscious. I didn't know this was what was going on in my brain, but I tried to figure out a way to get her to stay and not leave me. I was very insecure. Like I said, I was afraid that if she decided to go through with this, she was going to leave me behind. I was going to get left behind. Now, obviously not in every scenario is it going to be like this, but it could be something as simple as you want to get another job that's an hour from where you live, and all of your friends in your friend group, they all live close by and they work within 10 minutes of each other. And you go to your friends and you say, hey, I have this job opportunity. It's an hour away. And everybody says no. Subconsciously, they might be afraid that you're going to meet new people, that maybe you're going to go to a new bar and meet other people. You're going to have a new friend group. You're not going to hang out with them as much anymore. That was my big fear. My big fear was, okay, this person is very ambitious. They want to chase their dreams. I don't want to be a part of that, because there's a big part of me that doesn't believe I'm even going to be able to keep up. I have to get them to stay here. And I remember having that conversation with my partner at the time. I said, California is super expensive. You're going to have to drive across the country. Everything in California, the gas is super expensive. Registering your car, you don't have a job lined up. Where are you going to live? And what if it doesn't work out? This person ended up leaving me, as they should have in retrospect. But the big reason I subconsciously, unconsciously, unintentionally held this person back is it was fear of being left behind. I would rather you stay with me and stay small than be big and leave me behind. That was my thought at the time. And this person ended up leaving me behind. Now, that's one thought. And I know, Alan, you have thoughts on that. Second thought. As you know, Alan and I are both cat dads. Pet dads. Alan has a dog as well. And 2 kitties, 1 dog. And I am a nervous cat dad. Taryn has had cats in the past. I've never had cats. So we have this armoire, however you pronounce it, in our bedroom, and it's very high. It's like right at the ceiling. And Ace can literally jump from the bed to the top of this armoire. And the first time he did it, I said, babe, I think I got to help him get down. Like, there's no way he's going to be able to jump down from there. And she said, Kev, he's fine. He's a cat. He's fine. If he can get up there, he can get down. And I remember getting up there and pulling him down. Now, if he can get up there, he can get down. So he would have been safe. The fear I had was he was going to hurt himself. I thought he was going to
end up hurting himself doing the same thing.
No, so Fudge broke his hip. Probably, I don't know, maybe 8 months after we got them. But they said that it was like a hereditary thing. It wasn't that he didn't necessarily jump from anything. It could have happened with him just walking.
Huh.
So it was more of a hereditary. What's the proper term for that? Not hereditary. Genetic. It was a genetic thing. And they said it could,
the same idea. Hereditary. Same thing.
They said it could happen up to 2 years. Luckily, they just passed 2 years, so he should be good. But imagine if Ace and I could communicate, and Ace is the one who jumps up top. And I said, hey, man, it's not that I don't want you to do this. I want you to have fun. I know you're athletic. It's not that I don't believe that you can do this. I'm just afraid you're going to get hurt, man. I would hate for you to jump down and step the wrong way and break a leg. You'd be miserable. I don't want that to happen to you. Obviously, I can't do that. He doesn't understand what I'm saying. But that's the second reason. A lot of us are being unintentionally held back by people who are just afraid to see us lose. I remember when I left my job and I went to my mom and my grandmother and I told them I was going to be an entrepreneur. My grandmother wanted me to go get another job. Not that she didn't want to see me live my dreams or accomplish my goals. I think she was afraid I was going to fail. And she was afraid what that would end up looking like. What if you end up broke? What if you end up... Because that was the thought. Well, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay for your car? All that stuff. So I would say those are two big reasons why people unintentionally hold us back. One, fear of being left behind. Two, fear of your failure. And then maybe 2A, fear of what your failure means to their reputation and your relationship together.
Well, the key word in all that, Kev, is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear holds us back when we're afraid. We're afraid we're not going to make it. We're afraid we're not going to be good enough. We're afraid we're not going to be smart enough. We're afraid X, Y, Z. My fears were a little different at the beginning of the journey, and my fear was actually outgrowing people and being alone. That was one of my fears. And some of these fears are rooted in valid things. You know, Ace very well could have gotten hurt up there. As we have a new kitten, her name is Tiger Lily, Tilly for short, and the things that Tilly is experimenting with are extremely hard for me to watch because Emilia says the same thing. Like, she's going to have to fail.
Right.
She's going to be fine. Like, she's going to have to hurt herself. And I understand, but so Tariel and Tilly will grapple. And Tilly thinks she's hot shit. And Tariel is 3 times her size. And Tilly doesn't understand that Tariel could essentially kill her at any time. And Tariel doesn't understand that Tariel doesn't know her own strength. She's only 1. So today is actually Tariel's birthday. But I am freaking out for sure when they're wrestling because Tilly is only 6 weeks old or 7 weeks old or something like that. And she's acting like she's such a confident little kitten. And confidence is dangerous if you're going up against a cat that's 4 times your size or 5 times your size. And then Tariel has no idea how strong she is. So and then you've got Tucker, who is hefty. Hefty Tucker. We were on a hike recently and he was huffing and puffing and we were like, I think Tucker might need to go on a little bit of a diet here. Just like his daddy. But anyways, Tucker comes in full speed, full momentum. He's at least 15 pounds, I want to say. 15 pounds. And then Tariel is used to sparring with Tucker. And so anyways, the long and short of this is I'm fearful that Tiger Lily is going to get hurt or stepped on or rolled over or fall off the bed and hurt herself or whatever. And so, of course, I hold Tiger Lily back a little bit with being overprotective. And all of us have had parents that are either overprotective or underprotective. All of us can think back. I mean, I'm 34, Kevin's 34. So let's just use us as an example. I'm always afraid the listeners are going to think we talk about ourselves all the time. Really, we're trying to lead by example. I just want to make that clear. We're leading by example. And for me, I had parents that were underprotective. It was some of the things that I was allowed to do in hindsight were very reckless and very dangerous. I think you also had underprotective.
I would say
okay. So. Everyone is either underprotective or overprotective. And by the way, those are the only two options. No one's perfect. No one's perfectly centered in the amount of protectiveness. You know, I have a client who I coached for many years who had helicopter parents who was way overprotective. And she was protected from every uncomfortable truth, and she was protected from every difficult conversation about money, and she was protected from every... Do you have like a helicopter going off?
No, they're mowing outside.
Okay, they're mowing. I just want to make sure it's not on my end. So, at the end of the day, it's fear. You're either afraid you're going to hold the other person back, so you let them do whatever they want and don't even give your input, and you seem like you don't care. Or you're overprotective and you're holding them back because you're so afraid they're going to get hurt. You're so afraid they're going to fail. You're so afraid they're going to look bad, and that's going to make you look bad or whatever. At the end of the day, it's all just fear. And I think that in hindsight, I wish that I had understood that more because it always felt so personal. I've had big goals and dreams my entire life, even when I was a little boy, and I never understood why. I'll give a tiny example. Even me and my buddy, we really wanted to go and be professional gamers. And this was early on. And this was back in the Halo 1 days when there wasn't even Xbox Live yet. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it was pre-internet online gaming. And there was still the internet and there was online games, but not for consoles. And I remember we got invited to a tournament with some of the best players in the world, and one of my friends couldn't go because his mom wanted him to play outside more. She didn't think video games were going to be lucrative. She didn't think video games were a good option. And her fear that her son was going to be a failure and play video games his whole life instead of be successful. Did she have his best interest at heart? Yeah, maybe. But her belief system was inaccurate. Obviously, pro gamers do very well for themselves. And obviously, things have gone a little differently than she thought. She thought playing sports was the way. And a lot of athletes do really well. But so do esports athletes. But esports didn't exist back then. So again, I think the point that I'm really trying to help land here, and this is for me too, because I was always the one who was taking it personally. When people would constantly take wind out of my sails, I mean, you can't do that. You can't make that happen. You can't XYZ. And we met someone in Boston who had a podcast called Ignore the Naysayers. And I just adored that podcast title, because if I had listened to people at the beginning of this journey, there's no way Kevin and I could have gotten here. So here's the lesson. It's rooted in fear. It's rooted in their belief systems. And their belief systems might be inaccurate. They also might be accurate. You know, gas prices were higher in California. All those things you pointed to. But if you had been vulnerable and just told her the truth and said, listen, I'm afraid you're going to outgrow me. And then she could have made an accurate decision, not based on all the nonsense that you spewed, but based on the reality. And what's ironic is if you had actually been vulnerable and courageous enough to tell her that, I bet you she wouldn't have left you. And who knows what would have happened. But hopefully all of us can face our own fears enough and be courageous enough to say, listen, I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z. And I don't know if that's accurate or not. I do this with Emilia. In business, she wants to try this new business endeavor. And I say, I personally think that's a bad idea. But I also know you need to try. But from my perspective, that won't work. And here's the reasons why. But if you need to go do it anyway, I support you. And I think that's what a true mature individual does. And you just have to realize that most people aren't at that level. And it took me 34 years to get there, so I get it.
I remember Alan and I were hanging out in our studio. And by studio, I mean one of the bedrooms in his mother's home. And Alan said, hey, man, I got some some pretty interesting news today. And I said, what do you got, man? What's happening? He said, well, somebody reached out to me and they want me to be on a TV show. And I was like, okay, what show? He said, you ever heard of Love Island? I said, I've never heard of Love Island. He's like, let me show you. And I think
it was
watched,
big in the UK at the time.
Yeah, it was big in the UK. Now it's big on Netflix too. I think we watched like 15 minutes of an episode, something like that. And I remember we had a conversation, and I said, Alan, you can't do this. You definitely can't do this. This can't happen ever. This could never happen. No way. This would be terrible for us. I don't know what percentage it was, but there was definitely a percentage of me thinking, I don't know, if Alan goes off to this tropical island with these beautiful people and a drinking problem, he may never come back. And the Hyperconscious podcast might cease to exist. There was definitely a part of me that was afraid of being left behind, for sure. You're going to forget about Kev, little Uxbridge Kev, when you're hanging out with all these people out at this tropical island. I'm not coming. I didn't get an invite. They didn't email me. Maybe I'm a foot too short and not modelly enough. I don't know, but I didn't get an email. But there was definitely a part of me that was, there was a part of me that I was subconsciously afraid you'd leave me behind. We weren't we were serious into the podcast, but not like we are today. We didn't have a business.
Yeah.
We didn't have a team. You and I weren't as many episodes in. I was afraid. I was afraid that would be the new thing. Now, at the time, obviously, I didn't understand how important this was to you. Self-improvement, growth, impact, all that. I didn't understand. But I have been on that end of unintentionally holding people back several times. Now, I think that was the right thing. And I think the balance, I don't think it was 90% fear of being left behind, 10% logic. I think it was probably the other way, honestly. I think it was probably like 70% logic, 30% fear of being left behind. But I have empathy now for anybody who's trying to protect me because I know what it's like on the other side. I know it's not a me thing. And I also, at this stage, there's not a lot of that. You see people's true colors over the course of time enough, and you realize, oh, okay, this person, you're not really capable of supporting me. I appreciate the fact that you want me to stay safe. I do. But I can't have my judgment clouded with that. This is already challenging enough. So I do. I have empathy for both sides because I've been on both sides, and I know what it's like to be scarce, and I know what it's like to be afraid, and I know what it's like to think you're going to lose someone. I have very familiar feelings of that, so I definitely understand both sides.
Hi, my name is Tim Melanson, and I have a web development agency called Creative Crew Agency, and I'm also a podcast host of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. I met Alan a little over a year ago. He was a guest on my podcast, and we had an epic conversation, and I was just really impressed with his work ethic. And so I decided to jump on board with him, and it's been a little over a year now. My business has grown, but more importantly, I feel much less stressed and much more purposeful with what I'm doing and the direction that I'm going. So I definitely highly recommend Alan. If you're looking for some accountability, if you're looking for some tools, then look him up, take him up on this consultation.
I just connected this, and I don't think I realized. I told Kev that I'm going to share a story that really powerfully illustrates this, and I'm still going to share that in a second. Maybe underneath all of it, maybe I wasn't really mad at the other person. Maybe I was mad at myself for not trusting my own judgment. Because at the end of the day, even if it was 90-10, and it wasn't, I know it wasn't. I could kind of tell that it wasn't, by the way. Because at that point, I was in my late 20s. I was definitely unreasonably fit as a fitness model, and it makes sense why they wanted me on the show. I get it. I did several interviews. It was a whole thing. As arrogant as that might have sounded, but I was who they were looking for.
Except they asked you if you were always so smart. Is that what was?
Yeah, that's the only interview.
You might be a little too smart.
I've done a lot of interviews in my life, in corporate, and I'm probably 100. I don't know, lots and lots of interviews, phone interviews, and follow-up interviews, and in-person interviews. Blah blah blah. That interview, I think it's the only time where being smart was a bad thing. So anyways, even if it was 90% scarcity, which it wasn't, I think I'm upset with myself more than anything of letting other people's opinions hold me back. Because if you think about it, right? The naysayers. I've never not had naysayers in my life, genuinely. I even had people reach out and say, hey, honestly, I'm really sorry I was such a dick. Mm. And, you really were. You really, really were. And I get it, kind of, because what we were doing was very, very rare. But just because you don't think you can do it does not mean we can't. And I think that's a little bit ignorant. But at the end of the day, I get it. So what I'm really upset with underneath it all is my own inability to trust my own gut over someone else's opinion. And usually I did trust myself and just do it anyway. And I think it also makes sense because Kevin and I spend our life trying to help support people's dreams, trying to help support people's goals, trying to help people aspire bigger and better and go do it and put wind into your sails. So maybe in some ways this wouldn't have happened had I not had so much wind taken out of mine. But I digress. The story that I wanted to share for this, and I told Kev when I share this story, I have to be upfront and give a disclaimer. Please don't shut off to the story because it's so powerful. The lesson is so powerful. I think it's a true story, but I cannot confirm that. And I haven't done the research to actually confirm it. So I'm just going to tell it as if it's true, but I'm going to tell you up front that I'm not sure if it is true. Okay? But the lesson is super powerful either way. All right. So this story is something I used to say early in business 8 years ago. And I used to give this in my speeches because I think it's really powerful. It's called the 4 monkeys. All right. So there's researchers that have a room and there's a giant pole with bananas at the top. And they have a really hungry monkey that they put in the room. And then they observe. And the researchers are just observing this monkey, and the monkey goes to climb up to get the bananas. And every time it touches a banana, there is a mechanism that sprays the monkey in the face with cold water. Okay? Probably not an ethical research thing, but okay. Spray in the face with cold water every time it touches a banana. Okay, so monkey 1 is like trying, spray. Okay, F this, I'm done. Second monkey gets put in the room. The second monkey has no idea that there's cold water or spraying in the face. And the second monkeys look at the first monkey going, hey, what's the deal? These are bananas. What are we doing here? Let's get these bananas, man. You can climb, I can climb, let's do it. Second monkey goes to get the bananas. First monkey pulls the second monkey down. Again, protecting the second monkey. Third monkey comes in, same deal, but both monkeys are pulling the third one down. Again, protecting. They take the 3 first monkeys out of the room and they bring in a 4th monkey. First, they bring in the 4th monkey and then they take the 3 out. Eventually, there's a monkey in the room, Kev, that has never been sprayed. And the monkey's sitting there in a room with a pole with bananas at the top. And it won't climb, and it has no idea why. The reason that story is so powerful is because I believe that's what happens to human beings too. You have your grandfather and grandmother's beliefs, and you have your mother and father's beliefs, and they're passed down generation to generation to generation to generation. Whether it's the 4-minute mile with Roger Bannister and how a bunch of people run 4-minute miles now, thousands, I think, maybe even more than that, tens of thousands, I don't know. But the point is in the 1950s, it was believed to be impossible to run a 4-minute mile, and now people do it in high school. So, yes, people are going to hold you back. But it's not necessarily because what you're doing is impossible. It might be just their fear. It's called learned helplessness. There's that monkey. We're all that monkey in a room in some ways. There's bananas right there. We can totally climb. It's all good. All the danger is gone, but you don't climb and you don't know why. And it's called learned helplessness. And so 2 reasons why people unintentionally hold you back. They're afraid. They're afraid to look bad. They're afraid to be friends with someone who looks bad. They're embarrassed for you. Have you ever watched a movie that's cringeworthy? Kevin and I watched Meet the Parents, and I'm embarrassed for him. It feels uncomfortable to watch him just mess everything up
all the time. And it's hilarious, but it's cringeworthy. And so there's reasons why people are holding you back, and it might not be conscious. It probably isn't conscious.
and it's most likely unconscious fears. And so you got to trust yourself over them. And at least that way you won't have what if.
And it's a good filter to run through when you're giving someone advice. Ask yourself, where is this giving or receiving advice? Where is this advice coming from? Either way. When I give advice, am I thinking, what if this person, if I give them this advice, are they going to leave us? They're not going to listen to the show anymore. They're not going to work with us anymore. I had clients recently, I told you this, where I said, if money is tight, I would cancel everything, including us. I would cancel NLPS, cancel it, and come back when you're ready. I want my advice to be on the truth and on what I believe is best for them, not what's best for me.
Think about how hard that would be if you and I were back against it.
Oh, it'd suck.
If we weren't in abundance and we weren't in an abundant place, how hard would it be for you to give that advice?
It might not even be possible.
Yep.
I'd like to think, I'd like to think that's how my character, but I don't know. It's easier.
And that's a metaphor for self-belief, because I believe if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to unintentionally hold people back because you're living in fear.
Yeah, that's fair.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as much as I'd like to think I would do it regardless, it's a lot easier when you have 50 clients than it is when you have 5.
Yep.
So it's a lot easier. But I also now more than ever have the belief that if you do that, people know what's real.
Mm-hmm.
People know when you're really looking out for them, and they appreciate that. So that does come back. Karma, whatever you want to. I think it's just being a good person. But yeah, this is an important one. I don't know. Maybe you haven't been on both ends. Maybe you've only been on one end. I can't imagine somebody who hasn't been on at least one end. What is your relationship with your end, and what is your relationship with the other end? Are you villainizing the people who are unintentionally holding you back? There might be that would be my next level nugget. There might be some room for growth in imagining what it would be like to be on their end. I'm not saying you have to forgive or forget or any of that, but I think the perspective and having an open mind would be beneficial. That would be my next level nugget.
So you do think I should have gotten drunk on Love Island then?
I think it would have been awesome. It would have been pretty cool. But really what I was thinking is I could just get stilts, get some blonde hair, and you just send me out. I'm a blast. I'd probably crush on a show like that. So no.
It's funny.
I think you made the right choice.
Definitely. I haven't drank since. No, I'd already quit drinking by that point. But I was like, am I going to be able to read books on the island? You know, it's funny. and hey, what are your thoughts on me not drinking and all that? But anyways, so my next level nugget. Trust your own. Take in the information from others. Just ask yourself what percentage of it is fear. What percentage of it is accurate? I think that's better. Okay. I think people are unintentionally full of it. They just don't know. Okay, at the beginning, people said, there's no way you can do that. I'll give one example. Someone said, there's no money in podcasting. And while that advice, that might be that other person's belief. They actually think that. They're just wrong. They're just inaccurate. Now, do most podcasts make money? No. So they are accurate in some senses. So you have to sift through other people's inaccurate beliefs, because everyone wants to help you, and sometimes they think they're helping you when in reality they're actually distorting you. And there's a whole bunch more episodes we could do about that. But at the end of the day, don't take advice from people who don't know what they're talking about. And maybe you got to take a chance on you. Maybe you are more accurate than you think. Maybe that idea, you'd be better off trying and failing, and then that failure might lead to a lesson that brings you to something else. It's better than just presupposing that it's not going to work because everyone thinks it's not going to work.
And if you want to get blackout drunk on national television for Love Island, that's for you.
Yeah, and maybe that's the path you should take.
Look, if we weren't in self-improvement, I probably would have said, hey, man, let's, take one for it's 3 months. Take one for the team. If we were a comedy podcast, that would be the way.
That would be the way. Yeah.
But we're not.
Self-improvement. Holistic self-improvement.
Yeah.
There's no way we can align that, I don't think.
I try to bring a little comedy, but we're not a comedy podcast. If it was up to me,
we're a self-improvement podcast with a little bit of comedy versus a comedy podcast with a little bit of self-improvement. See the difference?
I do see the difference. Next Level Nation, if you are trying to find a new tribe of people who will put wind into your sails, regardless of themselves, those are the right people to have, people who want what's best for you regardless of themselves, please join our private Facebook group, Next Level Nation. Link will be in the show notes.
So if you are listening to this on the day that it launches, that means it is Thursday, and we have a monthly meetup tomorrow night. So September 1st, it's a Friday. Normally we do the monthly meetups on Thursday, but this one will be on a Friday because Kevin will be in Belgium having waffles
and beer
and other things, and beer and
waffles,
other things that they do in
chocolate and beer.
Waffles, chocolate, and beer in Belgium.
Also, real quick, Waffles was Ace's name before we renamed him Ace.
Ooh.
He's an Ace. He's not Waffles. Get out of here with that.
I see you. I actually respect it. I think Ace is a great name. So this monthly meetup is dealing with the fear of judgment and rejection, which goes very well with what we just talked about. If you cannot deal with other people judging what you're doing, you're in serious trouble when it comes to your goals and dreams, because people are going to judge you, whether you want them to or not. Even if anytime you go outside of alignment with other people's belief systems, they do judge you at least a little bit. So if you're going to chase your dreams, you're going to achieve your goals, you're going to have to be willing to put yourself out there. And if you put yourself out there, you're going to risk judgment. You're going to risk rejection. So September 1st, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a Friday. Join us. The story that I have for this very, very, very briefly is if I allowed the fear of rejection to stop me, I would never have been with Emilia. I sent her 3 different DMs because her Facebook said she was in a relationship, but there was no men to be found. I did my research online, and this was 3.5 years ago. And I unsent 3 DMs because I thought she was in a relationship, and eventually I had the courage to say, you know what? I'm just going to not unsend this thing. And it said, are you true or false? You're in a relationship. And she said, yes, with myself. And we were off to the races after that. We were inseparable ever since. And here we are coming up on our 4-year anniversary soon in October. And if I had allowed the fear of rejection and embarrassment to stop me, I would have stopped myself from the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And the truth of that statement is alarming. Where else have I held myself back without knowing it? So that's what that episode is about, or that meetup is about, rather. Join us and overcome this fear once and for all.
Once and for all. Strong work.
Thanks, man.
What number am I on the list of best things that has ever happened to you? Am I in top 10?
Oh, definitely.
Top 10?
Definitely.
I accept
for
that.
sure. Probably top 3, honestly.
No, we can stop there. I'm good with top 10.
Okay.
I don't want to get my heart broken. If it's number 3, it's like, well, what about number 2? You know, there's a lot of, yeah, okay. Tomorrow, for episode number 1446, how to actually ask for help. Alan and I are in a very unique position because we have gotten asked for help. I don't even know how to phrase it. A lot of people have asked us for help, and there's definitely a way to go about it, and there are definitely many ways not to go about it. And I think that's why a lot of us are afraid to ask in the first place, because we don't want to look bad or a certain way. So I thought it would be a valuable episode to do. So we would do that tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. It's just replaying in my head. You know how when you mess up, it just replays in your head? And as always, at NLU, you don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Don't let anyone hold you back. Next Level Nation.